All right, hello. Let's talk about something very basic and fundamental to finance and accounting. And I've seen people struggle with this a lot. Even mid-level professionals at times struggle with this, and that's what that's double entry. Double entry. For me, I don't want to make it so complex. Double entry in the sense that what do I debit, what do I credit, right? Even if you use accounting software, use ERPs, the way things are automated, there are still times you have to manually enter some transactions. Probably you want to use journals or you want to understand some things, right? So you still need that understanding. And I see people struggle with what should I debit, what should I credit. So I'm here to give a very simple way to understand it in the next 2-3 minutes. We're going to look at it together. How do you do double entry in a very simplified and very practical way? So let's start. Before we learn how to properly do double entry, let's understand some basic things. There are 5 classes or there are 5 items. Let's in our financials, right? You have your asset, you have your liability, you have your equity, you have your expenses, and you have your income. So we'll take them one by one. Okay, so let's start from assets. Now, the thing you need to understand about assets is that assets normally should have debit balances. So anytime your asset is increasing, what do? You debit your asset account. That's one way to understand accounting for. So you acquired an asset. They did something to increase the value of an asset. You want to increase the value of an asset, you debit that asset. In the other way, anytime your asset reduces in value, you do what? You credit that particular item. For example, your inventory, probably it got destroyed and you want to write off a part, you credit your inventory account. Asset is that simple. So understand it. When my asset goes up, what do? It's going to be a debit entry. And when my asset comes down, what do? I put a credit entry, right? Next, let's look at the next one called what? Liabilities. Liabilities is like the opposite of assets. Anytime your liability goes up, what do? You credit your liability, right? And anytime your liability goes down, you debit it. Let's take a very practical example of liability. Let's say business took a bank loan of 5 billion naira, right? So what do? Their liability is going up because they are owing the bank, right? So what do? You credit your liability account, that is, you credit the loan account. And remember that your assets will go up. We talked of assets increasing, right? Your bank balance, because the bank will send the money into your account, right? Once you have fulfilled the terms of getting the loan, so you debit your bank. That's for liability. So liability, remember, when it increases, what do? We credit. When it reduces, we debit. Same thing with equity or capital. Anytime our equity goes up, we credit that account. And anytime that our equity goes down for whatever reason, we debit equity account. So whether it is your share capital, your reserves, or your retained earnings, that's how you treat those particular ones. Let's look at the more peculiar ones you see that you handle more on a day-to-day basis, which is your expenses and income. This one is quite simple and straightforward too. Anytime you expense or your expenses go up, very simple, you debit. So you spend money on buying anything, you debit that expense account. And in exceptionally rare circumstances, your expenses can actually go down. So when your expenses go down, what do? You what? You credit that expense account, as simple as that. So you spent 50,000 for entertainment of some visitors that came to your office today. You debit your entertainment expenses and then credit whatever accounts you paid from, or if it's a liability you are owing someone, you credit it. Okay? Then lastly, let's look at income. Income account is always a credit account, right? So anytime your income goes up, what do? You credit your income. And anytime your income comes down, you what? You debit your income. So let's take an example. We sold goods today, right? We credit our income and debit whether it's cash we received, or if the person has not paid in advance, we do more what? We debit our receivable. So that's basic double entry. So let's run over it again. So remember we said assets. What happens to assets when it increases? We debit. What happens to assets when it reduces? We credit. What happens to liability when it increases? We credit. When it decreases, we what? Debit. You can write this down somewhere so you don't forget. Okay? Equity, when equity increases, what do? We credit. And when equity reduces, we what? We debit equity. For your expenses, anytime your expenses go up, you debit it. And anytime your expenses come down, you what? You credit it. For your income, that's the last one. Anytime your income goes up, what do? You credit. And anytime your income goes down, you debit. All right, that's double entry in a very simplified form. Of course, there are more advanced level to double, but that's the basic double entry. If you can understand this, then you can handle most transactions that come your way as a finance and accounting professional. So thank you. My name is Adedamola Jai, and I'm a chartered accountant, and I'm into building sound and competent finance accounting professionals. Thank you.